Hi everybody, happy Sunday. It's been a little while since I posted a video, so I decided I would um, take this opportunity to talk a little bit about dreams. Uh, I am going to be holding a webinar, a live webinar with me next Sunday, March 1st. So anybody who's interested in learning more about dreams, you can sign up on my website, www.pamcoronado.com, and you'll see it there. But I want to talk a little bit about dreams. I know I saw a little bit of comments on Facebook about people being some confused about dreams and having questions, and I thought I'd talk a little bit about that today. And of course, in depth when we have our webinar next weekend. But those who don't know a lot about my background, I started in this field because of a dream, and have had some pretty fascinating dreams throughout my life, but dreams that actually really made a huge difference in the trajectory of my life. So I find them fascinating. I love working with dreams. I think if you are interested too, it's really a super fascinating study. So for those who don't know, it was a dream that got me started in this field. I've had a few dreams that were pretty profound and helped me sort of, find my way. But one of those dreams, I haven't talked a lot about some of these dreams, but one was I had really been asking and trying to incubate a dream, and we're going to talk about that too, is that I was really searching for what my life purpose was. It was really weighing heavily on me, and I was asking a lot of questions and sort of starting to study and become more spiritual and trying to figure out what it all meant for me and where it was all going for me. And I had a dream, and I used to make sure that I would journal and write down, still do, write down my dreams so that I can remember them and work with them. But I had this dream that I was in the woods, and there was a missing person, and I was in the woods, and I was searching. There was a dog with me, and this dog had an unusual name. The dog's name was Lisa, and later learned that that's the name of one of my guardian angels, I believe. And the dog and I were sort of leading a search for this person who was missing in the woods. And of course, I woke up, I wrote this dream down, and it didn't make a lot of sense to me at the time because I wasn't involved in this work at all as far as missing persons or any kind of crime stuff, anything like that. And so the dream made absolutely no sense to me at the time. And I do believe that there's a lot of dreams, there's a precognitive aspect to them. And so that's why a lot of times people don't understand their dreams, because they may not make sense at that moment. But if you record them and keep track of them, you learn a lot in retrospect. So obviously now, some 20 years later, that dream makes perfect sense. And but at the time, it seemed, like a pretty strange thing. So obviously, it was pointing towards the work that I would be doing. So I was also having a bit later. I started having a lot of nightmares. um, to the degree that I was really sort of wanting to avoid going to sleep. I was having intense series of nightmares, and I was being chased and shot at and murdered, and all kinds of horrible things were happening night after night in my dreams, and really thought I was kind of coming apart at the seams or something. And that's when I connected with Alan Vaughn, who was a well-known dream researcher, and he sort of helped me, guide me, understand what was happening and how to sort out what empathic dreams are from other types of dreams. And he really helped me kind of clear out some of my fear and some of the things that were going on, all the trauma that was associated with these dreams I was having. And that sort of changed my whole life around, because I started working with this information and working with the dreams and working with my intuition in a more conscious way, so that the dreams weren't sort of taking over. And I kind of believe now that the dreams were really just trying to get my attention. And once I started paying attention, that all started to ease up the feeling like I was out of control and feeling like I was having all these dreams. So consciously starting to work with my intuition and understand the dreams and all of that really made a huge difference, and helped me deal with a lot of the fear that was coming up around everything. So I was having a lot of nightmares, and I realized that I was dreaming about actual crimes that I would later see in the newspaper or elsewhere. And it eventually became something that I couldn't deny anymore, or pretend it wasn't happening. When I had the dream about Michael Daly and Sherry Daly, as some of you have heard this story. So after having quite a few of these really profound experiences and these profound dreams where things were coming true that I was dreaming about, I can tell you another dream that I had during that time period. I had this dream that this is a great example actually of an empathic dream and how terrifying they can actually be. I was having a lot of these empathic dreams during this time period, and I've learned to recognize them and help you all recognize them as well. But I was having, I had a dream that my youngest son, Michael, he was probably about 2 or 3. And I dreamed that he was in this like dinosaur floaty, and he was floating around in the ocean, and the water was really black. I'll never forget this dream. And the water was really black, and he slipped through the leg hole of this little dinosaur floaty, and he slipped under the water. And in this dream, I actually woke myself up screaming. I was running up and down the coastline trying to find him and trying to pull him out of that water. And I was screaming at the top of my lungs, just screaming. And I actually woke myself up screaming. And it turns out that probably, maybe it was a couple of weeks after that my daughter went to a birthday party, and one of her little friends, who was a little boy, younger than her, a little older than my son that was in the dream. But this little boy was in a dinosaur floaty in the pool, and he slipped through the leg hole and went to the bottom of the pool. And my daughter, I wasn't actually at this. I wasn't at this event. My daughter was the one who saw him floating when he came. He floated back up to the top, unconscious. And my daughter's actually the one who saw him and started yelling for help. And when the mother realized that her son was unconscious, she started screaming. And my daughter said she'd never heard anybody wail and scream like that before, which is what I was doing in that dream. So I'm sure that that dream was about that incident that was getting ready to happen. So I was having a lot of these kinds of dreams that were really intense and definitely getting my attention. and so I'm pretty familiar with how empathic dreams work, and we're going to talk about that in the webinar. There's also guidance dreams where your subconscious is trying to help you, give you information about your blind spots. I love dreams in that way, is that once you work through the symbology, they're brilliant. They're really, truly brilliant. And some of the insight they can give you into some of your own blind spots and things that you could do to help yourself. A lot of times that can be uncovered in some of these dreams that seem to be crazy and not make any sense. Once you understand how to interpret them, a lot of times it's just incredible. I find it just super amazing sometimes how brilliant they are. And like I said, there's a lot of times there's a precognitive aspect to dreams, which is why sometimes it seems like they don't make any sense, because they'll make more sense in retrospect. And that's why it's important to write your dreams down and pay attention to them. Because if you look back later, if you keep a journal and you look back later, a lot of times you'll start to see patterns and you'll start to understand what your dreams are trying to tell you and what your own personal dream language is working out for you. Okay. I can give you all kinds of examples of empathic dreams and these kinds of things. I had I've definitely had dreams about crimes that were happening. When I had the dream about Sherry Daly and Michael Daly, as some of you have heard this story, is I dreamed that I was in the back seat of a car, and in the front seat was a man, and I knew him to be my husband, only this was not my real life husband. This was a complete stranger. But in the dream, I realized that this was my husband, and the woman in the front seat was his mistress. And they were driving me somewhere, and at some point I knew in this dream that I was in grave danger, and that their intent was to harm me. So as I've told more details about this dream, as I realized in the dream that I was in grave danger, I looked out the window, the car window, and I could see an angel flying outside the window, and she was motioning to me to come with her. And because I was scared, yeah, I did. And in the dream, I remember looking back at the car. I could see the car, and I could see the road it was traveling on. And I went with her, sort of Peter Pan style, to a place that I could only describe as heaven. And it looked like heaven that I had been taught about in Sunday school when I was a kid. And I remember feeling just this incredible sense of reverence, and I've never felt that kind of reverence ever before, and it was really profound. And I woke up, and of course I wrote all of that down and paid attention, but I never really had a dream that intense. It was very realistic, and I wasn't sure what to make of it, but wrote it all down. And about 3 days later, I was looking at the newspaper and I saw a picture of that guy in my dream. There was no mistaking that that was the face of the guy that I had seen in my dream. And his wife was missing, and him and his girlfriend, his mistress, were the prime suspects. And that's how I ended up getting involved in this work, is because I eventually stepped forward and helped law enforcement find her remains based on information I was getting. So, so like I said, I have a really strong connection to dreams. I really love them, and I hope that some of you will decide to join us next week, and I will hopefully be able to help you sort through some of your questions and confusion around dreams, so that you can see what a really, really great resource that they are for us. Okay, thanks guys. Bye.